Well, welcome to the opening session of our life group study on what first century Christianity teaches us about life in 2025. And you know, the world of the early Christians, it may seem quite distant, but an age of emperors, gladiators, handwritten scrolls. But beneath the surface, their struggles were shockingly similar to ours today. They lived in a world of competing beliefs, and so do we. And they face pressures to conform to culture, and so do we. They struggled with distractions, moral compromise, and opposition, and so do we. So, standing firm in a culture of compromise, the first century were in a society, a Roman society, that was full of religious pluralism, where worshipping multiple gods was the norm. And Christians were seen as a radical a group of people for claiming that Christ was the only way. And many faced pressures to either conform or be outcast, even persecuted. And today's world pushes relativism. All beliefs are valid. Truth is subjective. Christians often feel pressure to downplay their faith to fit in at work, school, or social settings. The council culture and criticism challenge bold countercultural faith. You see, the first century Christians, they teach us that standing firm in the truth requires courage when it costs us comfort. A second thing is that simplicity in the world of distractions. The first century Christians, the early believers, gathered in homes, free from distractions, and they were focusing on prayer, scripture, and deep community. Their faith wasn't compartmentalized, it was woven into their daily life. So how do we parallel that in 2025? Well, our lives are really cluttered with constant noise, social media, emails, endless entertainment. And many struggle to find time for prayer, scripture, or even meaningful relationships with other believers. The pull of consumerism makes it easy to prioritize material things over eternal values. So our sort of key takeaway from this section is that the first century Christians show us that a deep transformative faith is found in simplicity, prioritizing time with God over distractions. So as we continue on, let's look at enduring hardship with faith. The first century Christians were persecuted, and it was real. It was imprisonment, it was exclusion, and even martyrdom for following Christ. They didn't pray for an easier life, but the strength to remain faithful. So in 2025, the parallel to that is that while most believers today don't face physical persecution, many experience social rejection, job description, and hostility for their faith. And the temptation to compromise or keep faith private is strong. And the early church reminds us that faith thrives in adversity, and God's strength is made perfect in weakness, 2 Corinthians 12:9. So my final reflection is, what does it mean for us? The first century church wasn't just about surviving their culture, they transformed it, and so can we. The three challenges for modern believers are these: that we stand firm in truth, even when culture says otherwise. Secondly, we create space for God by eliminating distractions. And thirdly, we embrace hardship as opportunities to grow in faith. So our call for action is this: what if living out your faith in 2025 meant looking back 2,000 years? And let's rediscover the power of the first century Christianity together today. So as we break out in our groups, let's think about all these points and how can we adjust now in our life and how we live as Christians in 2025, and see the reflection coming back from 2,000 years ago. So now we're going to spend some time just talking about these subjects, and I do hope that in your groups you really get a grasp of this community that we need to get back to. So as we split up, and I look forward to seeing you next week with the next part.